Funky Politics.
You're listening to Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. I am DC, sitting here along with longtime host. What, not you, Doc? Doc Ward. I got to bring you in first, Doc.
Why?
Because you and I joined at the hip.
Okay.
And also Tosha Downey. Tasha, hey.
That was a hell of a surgery.
That was a bad surgery, wasn't it?
Hell of a surgery. but I thank God for it every day.
Poor mama, boy. I tell you.
I thank God for it every day.
You were the evil twin.
I thank him for it every day.
You were the evil twin.
But anyway. Yes.
What we got going on
Funky Politics is wonderful and rich like fine wine, music for your mind, keeping you up so you won't get behind and have to rewind. And we do it just fine. Real, right, funky, every doggone day.
I like the way you say all that, man.
And if I were not separated from you, I would not be able to say it that way.
Tasha Downey, what's up with the brother over here? What's up with this brother?
We just trying to help the brother. Just trying to give him something to do.
See, that's what I thought. Trying to give another lawyer something.
He's another lawyer refugee.
Get out of here. Look, today,
we do
y'all
have a guest.
we do have a guest on fire. We do have people to join us every once in a while, right?
Yes.
The one and only Lieutenant Anthony Buckner, who happens to be the Public Information Officer for the Shelby County Sheriff's Office here in Memphis and Shelby County, Tennessee. Welcome to Funky Politics, sir.
Hello. Thank you so much for the invite to sit amongst you guys. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. You're fully decorated.
Well, I tell you, this brother right here.
Can you lock him up?
He already has me.
Oh, okay, well, good. Yeah, y'all leaving out together. All right.
Yeah, I'm riding in the backseat of the truck.
Warren's finally caught up with you.
We have we went through a historic election in 2018. Historic election. And one of those elections that I think we've only seen it happen one time, and your boss.
And this is in Shelby County.
And this is in Shelby County, Tennessee.
Right.
We elected the first African American sheriff in Shelby County.
The first
history.
elected.
That's what I said. The first elected African American sheriff
make sure
in Shelby County, Tennessee. And he's now been in office. What I want to say, is it 200 days? Not probably a little bit over 200 days, I would guess, right now.
Somewhere in the range.
Somewhere around. Tell me how things going.
Busy.
And you're the information officer, so you know all of the information. You know everything about.
Are you the
what's going
first African American information officer?
I am not actually. Chip Washington.
Right.
Now, I don't know if he was the first, but I definitely know he was the last African American public information officer for the sheriff's office.
Okay.
But it's been super busy since Sheriff Bunner has taken office. I can honestly say that he has hit the ground just running. Right. And one thing that he has been committed to is keeping his campaign promise of being in the community. If you're watching your local news, you'll see him probably weekly somewhere in the community doing something great or participating in some kind of event. And when you don't see him on news, he's on our social media platforms, just really letting the community know, hey, I'm a sheriff that's going to be present, listening to the people of this great county.
Right. So what are you getting from the people? What's the main thing, the main message you're getting now that the sheriff has come out and you have that presence? I'm pretty sure people are coming and saying something of common accord in terms of what they want to see done in your office.
Yes, they're just simply appreciating him for just keeping that one promise of many that he made on the campaign trail. But they're just thanking him for listening. Oftentimes, my office sits right next to the sheriff's office. Yeah. So I'm seeing citizens walk in and out of his office all day long. You know, one of the things that he talked about on the campaign trail, hey, I want to hear from the citizens. I want to hear from each of you to know what your concerns are so I know how to best address them. And then I want to hear what recommendations or suggestions that you may have. Right. You know, hey, we'll put thought behind it. If it's something that we can implement, we'll simply do that. So I'm seeing different people from the business community to citizens walk in and just share what their thoughts are with the sheriff. And I think that's excellent, not just from being an employee of the sheriff, but being a citizen and a voter as well.
Right.
Wow.
One of the things that had me excited about this sheriff is that, you know, he expressed lots of commitment to the community, but there was also a task force around ACEs and ACE awareness and childhood trauma and toxic stress and impact that has in communities. And he was actually one of those people who was trying to be involved in that long before it was a popular kind of thing to do. Right. How have you all kind of adjusted in the way business is done or the way of thinking based on some of the sheriff's perspective on how to do things differently based on what we know about trauma and the impact it has on communities?
Well, one thing I can say that the sheriff is really big on making sure that the people below him are fully aware and fully trained on these types of topics. So one thing I can definitely tell you is that he has sent a lot of his staff to various trainings to know how to identify and address those particular issues. He has assembled a team of employees to try to strategize to see if there's anything that we can do differently as a department as a whole to respond to trends that we're seeing.
Okay.
Well, one thing I want to get in, while we're on that topic of juveniles, and I know that the sheriff supports this, it's the youth. What do we call it, Tosh? Because Tammy had a wonderful name. It used to be the Juvenile Justice, but it's a youth.
I believe it's a Youth Justice Center.
Youth Justice. I think that's the name they agreed to.
And education. Youth Justice and Education.
Exactly. And of course, the mayor is wanting to build a new facility and take it out of or separate it from the court, which it should have been anyway.
You said the county mayor too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the Shelby County mayor. That's correct. And so the sheriff's on board with that. When you all came in, did you realize? And he was a chief deputy at the time. Did you all realize the magnitude of the issues that our young people are facing, just really waking up every day in the confines of juvenile court?
No, and I don't think you'll ever fully comprehend just the issues that come along with some of these youth detainees. I love one of the stories that the sheriff often tells, which is he walks through juvenile court pretty often. And one particular kid he came across, he said, "Hey, this is a good-looking kid. Any family would love to welcome him in." And he asked this kid, who was a fairly tall individual, how did he end up here? And he said, "Well, I grew up in a life where no one told me no. They thought that I was going to be an NBA player, and from teachers to mentors to parents, they all just gave him what he wanted because he was supposed to be the ticket out for the family." Wow. So the first time that he was actually said or told no was in our facility, So, so it's something just as simple as that. And of course, you have the gang nexus and the issues that are going on there, but there's just a huge array of issues that these youth are facing every day. The sheriff often says, "Hey, there are no bad kid or no kid born bad. They're just born into bad situations." Right. And we see that often with these children that's in our custody right now in juvenile court.
I like the way you say the term children, because that's what they are. You want to call them everything that you want to, but when you got a 12 or 13 or 14, that's a child. And you're hearing it first right here on Funky Politics, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, but it's still a child, right? Tasha, and I know in this space that you work in the education space, and I've talked to plenty of people, the mind is still not developed, right? And so you've got children making old
really bad
adults.
Decisions, just bad, stupid, silly kid decisions, right? Underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. That's what happens. It's impossible to anticipate the long-term consequences.
But your office is, juvenile justice reform is a popular phrase.
Yeah. That
people have really nationally, and it's really ringing true in this local area now, on city and in county government. Mm-hmm. It's used a lot. We're in the campaign season. We're going to hear it a lot. But from a law enforcement perspective, when you hear the term juvenile justice reform, what does that mean from the law enforcement perspective?
So I can say from our component on the topic, it's just really trying to interrupt that school to pipeline.
School to prison. We understand what you mean.
Yeah. Ooh, man, my tongue getting tied on that one. But just trying to interrupt that. So I can remember being a young patrol officer when this concept just kind of got started. And basically the thought then was to, hey, let's see if there are some particular charges out there where we can issue a juvenile summons to some of these children, return them to their parents, and allow the court system to work out the best solution to this particular issue and not just transport them to juvenile court. So that's something that's now a common practice for our officers and our deputies out there, which is, okay, let's look at the charge, right? Is this child a threat to society?
Yeah.
Do we really have to remove this child from society and bring them into custody? And if we think that they can remain with their parents, for example, curfew violation. Yeah. Okay, you stop a child that's out at 1:00 in the morning. Right. We don't need to take that child to juvenile court. Truancy. Okay, they didn't go to school. They're skipping school. We don't need to take that child to juvenile court. We can return them either to the school on truancy or to the parent. You know, so we're trying to interrupt that as much as possible because we don't want to condition these children to get used to sit in the back seat of that car. In fact, we really want them to experience sitting in the front seat of the car. But we don't want them to get used to sitting in the back seat of that car or going inside our juvenile court facility with the doors closing behind them. We don't want that experience. If there's another way to do it, which is, hey, 2 weeks from now, 1 month from now, we're going to have someone from juvenile court contact you and figure out what can we do to hopefully encourage you to return to school or don't stay out at night, late at night, then that's what we want to do. And I think that's the component of this issue that we can, hey, let's stop transporting so many of these children to juvenile court, which is something that we are actively doing now.
How are you all working with the Public Education Center to serve as sort of a liaison for that? Because, I mean, I understand you can't do anything when school is closed. It's summertime. And maybe there is something if people get a little bit more innovative. But if they're not interfacing with you from a law enforcement jail perspective, some institution should be partnering with when they're getting these alternative results for truancy and other things that are not serious offenses. So is there any communication between you all and the public school system? And maybe in private schools, but I'm saying public school because the county has taken over the public school system, funding it and everything else. Is there any interrelationship between you and the public school system with regard to how you administer your alternative results?
Yeah, so forgive me for not knowing the exact names of some of these.
Oh, don't worry about it. I don't know them either.
I'm a professional meet and goer, right? So,
there you go.
But I know that there are some talks about having like day centers,
right?
Where we can take these children to, and they can, you know, hopefully have some kind of intervention done at that stage. Again, not taking them to juvenile court, just trying to avoid that at all possible. So yes, there are some conversations, and there are some hopefully some decisions being made on those particular options. So yes, there are some that's happening. Hopefully soon.
Great.
One of the things that I'm also kind of curious to know, and you brought it up on when we're engaging with young people, what are we doing to make the work that you do, like, because county work and city work is really different. County law enforcement, city law enforcement is really different. What are you all doing to do a better job of being like the friendlier face? Because I feel like the sheriff's office, like there's not as much like, oh, we hate the sheriff, as much as like, oh, we hate the police.
Yes, yes. You know, well, let me say it's a couple of things, and I could talk, you know, all day on this topic here. But one of the things that I don't know how many of you guys know this, but we have deputies inside of 28 schools spread throughout the county. And we really, really train heavily on them mentorships. You know, not just being in the schools, you know, patrolling for the bad guys, right? But how to take that young man or that young lady who's walking down the hallway and become mentors to them. So we put a lot of emphasis, a lot of money into training these officers to know how to do those kind of things. We also have an Explorer program where we bring our youth in. I want to say the age is under 21. We bring them in and we allow them to have just a front row seat at law enforcement. You know, where they can connect and sit alongside a deputy sheriff, whether it's in uniform patrol or detective division, and just learn the profession in itself. You know, so that's one thing that we do. But then also sharing through our social media platforms the great things, and I do say great things that we are doing in the community. For the last probably 3 to 4 years, we've really tried to invest a lot of time in that because, unfortunately, a lot of law enforcement social media platforms show, hey, we're looking for this person, we're looking for that person, or we arrested this person, or we arrested that person. But we're taking our social media platforms, we're showing some of that because that's needed. We need tips to come in. We need our viewers and followers to share information. But then also we want them to see that, hey, it's not just about arresting people, but it is about, hey, we're out delivering meals on wheels for MIFA, programs like that. And we're doing tons of those kind of things.
I want to talk about another relationship that I heard you all have, especially with a school or a college or university that I'm connected with. That's Lane College. I think you all have had some recruiting efforts out there. And let me say this, and I want to be very frank about the history of the Sheriff's Department here in Shelby County. Typically, we have not seen a lot of deputies that look like the folk who are in the majority of Shelby County, right? Black folk. I'm gonna call it what it is. But now I think there's a drive to make it as inclusive as possible, right, with the Sheriff's Department. And so you're going places that you've normally not gone before. You go to Lane College, you have not been there before. I've not heard y'all over at Lane College before, and I applaud that. Okay.
Yeah, so we actually have a team right now at Lane College. They've been there all day, getting our message out that we're looking for a few good men and women to join the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. Wow. But yes, it is a push to diversify our department, and make it look as closely as we can to the community in which we serve. When I got hired and became a deputy in 2001, I can remember patrolling Southeast Shelby County, which is like the Hacks Cross and Shelby Drive area.
Sure. Right.
And I would stop at gas stations, and it was interesting to me. I would get stopped often, weekly, sometimes daily, by people saying, "I've never seen a black deputy sheriff." I'm like, what? What do you mean? Of course, I see, a lot of
people would stop
colleagues.
you. You're supposed to be stopping them.
Yeah, they would literally say
you were
that
unique to them, right?
But it was kind of heartbreaking again, because to me, it really showed that we had a deficit when it came to representing the entire community. So I can truly say, for at least the last 8 years, there's been a concerted effort to try to, diversify our department, which I think we're doing a pretty good job at that. Like you talked about just a moment ago, we're at Lane College today trying to recruit as much as we can from there. But shockingly, we have a difficult time recruiting female whites.
Female whites, really?
Yeah, we for some reason we having a difficult time there. But
is that based on just your officer? Is that something that's happening nationwide with law enforcement recruiting female white officers?
I can't speak to nationwide, but I can definitely say for us, we typically, if we do run a class, we may not have any, or we may just have one.
Right.
But again, our goal is to try to make our agency look like the community in which we serve.
Sure.
What about black females? I mean, are you all good in terms of when it comes to recruiting? Are you getting the numbers that you're looking for in this community in terms of black females?
Yeah. So we don't see an issue right now with recruiting our African American females. Yeah. But let me pause right there, because I want to just throw something out right there. Some great news. If you could see, when I started talking about the sheriffs, I'll almost jump out this seat.
But you should. You're the PIO. You should be excited about the news.
But since Sheriff Bonner has been elected to sheriff, he has actually promoted our first African American female chief in our agency.
Wow.
And I think that's great stuff. Yes.
Years? It only took us 200 years.
Yes, the first African American female chief to be a part of our agency. So again, you can hear, not just from recruiting from outside in, but even from the inside of our agency, just trying to promote and again allow our command staff to represent the community in which we serve.
Well, you know what, Lieutenant Buckner, let me tell you something. We appreciate you stopping by with us here on Funky Politics. Make sure you bring that young man who's actually the sheriff. Bring him by sometime. We'd like to talk to him.
Did you say young man?
Yeah. No. His hair's blacker than mine. Okay? I'm not going to talk about yours, but his hair's blacker than
young man compared to DC.
Whatever. I'm not even worried. Hey, look, you've been listening to Funky Politics. We have the one and only PIO, the Public Information Officer, Lieutenant Anthony Buckner with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Keeping it real, right, and funky.
I think one of the things that makes a difference is having an African-American man who leads as the executive editor. I'm always about this girl power. One of the other things we've been talking about is youth and their interaction with the justice system.
Funky Politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN 3.
Am I gonna sit there and argue with you over we had steak 2 days ago, I want chicken?
B.
I'm gonna be spicy all the time. I don't care if I'm single or not.
C.
I think that the foundation is how you were brought up.
3 Black Chicks on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.